Guys, welcome here and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Future Podcast. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jaden Robinson. I'm your host and have some exciting things coming down the line. Have some exciting things coming. The group has launched for this podcast. Now, a lot of people have kind of asked me what it's about, and I want to take this opportunity to explain a little bit more about it. I know I did last episode. This group is not only for you guys to network and to learn from each other. There will be course options, courses that you can kind of like ebook style almost from people, video style, video libraries from people that will be putting together trainings coming. I even have some people that have agreed to come on and even speak, do Spanish lessons. Pretty exciting. And there's a lot of opportunity here to explore and add value to you guys. And it's also to support this podcast. I don't ever want to have ads on here. And what this podcast community will be about is supporting this podcast so we can continue to grow and get this message out there to other people, get the blue collar future in front of more people so I can really just start producing more. What it will be for a baseline is just a small fee, $10 a month. I mean, a gas station stop in the morning once a month to get into the community, to network with people, and to be a part of weekly calls. You get to see live weekly calls as well as early releases of episodes. And on my interviews, I'm going to start doing longer interviews and putting the last half or quarter of them only in the group. So this will be another value add for the group. There will be another tier that'll be $99 a month. That'll be access to more trainings, the call library of all of the past weekly calls, and courses, and a bunch of more exclusive content on there. And I had contemplated doing a free group for people, but people don't value free. And if you support the podcast, get in there, join the community, network with people, add value, and it'll pay off. It'll be worth it for everybody involved. And we can keep this podcast ad free. And I hate more than anything listening to a podcast that has a bunch of ads in it. And then even at the end, some podcasts have ads, and at the end, they tell you to go to their private network for their podcast, the rest of their interview. And I want to keep this ad free. So I want to keep this ad free and as value packed as possible for everybody. And then if you want more, you can go to the community and network and join together. I just was on somebody else's podcast, just barely, that'll release in November. And the topic was what makes a construction champion. I will let all of you guys know when that episode releases so you can go listen to it. That's the question. And I answered. The answer is kind of something I've been thinking about for a long time. And it is, are you happy? Are you happy? Is your life what you want it to be? When you go home and look in the mirror, are you the person that you want to be? That's the big question. Now, we all know in construction and trade work, manual labor work, anything to do with this whole area, this whole blue collar area is all about, it's this manual labor vibe. It's stressful, mentally and physically stressful. A lot of times you're dealing with the weather and poor conditions. You're dealing with the people with a bunch of high emotions and a bunch of big egos. And it is hard. Nobody's going to deny that. And if you do not have a purpose and you are not happy, that can take a spiraling downward direction that is hard to get out of. And it's hard to see out of that hole. And I talked about this a little bit on the podcast with Luke Cosmanis, the conscious tradie, about how a lot of construction workers go to work, they're unhappy, they're not healthy, they're not in shape, and they go home and fall into the bottle, fall into the drugs. And that's even worse. The alcohol, the prescription drugs, the hard drugs, whatever. If you do not have your purpose and you're not happy, those really take hold. I'm against alcohol for most cases because it only takes one little slip in your purpose and in your direction to completely take over your life. If you are completely right with yourself, mentally, physically, spiritually, your relationships are good, and you have a beer every now and then, really isn't that big of a deal. It's not good for you, but it's not that big a deal, and it's manageable. But if you're unhappy, you're depressed, you don't have a purpose, that becomes your purpose. It makes you feel good. And it's really hard to stay out of it in those scenarios. And not only that, it drags you in. It drags you in and it drags you down. And this question, are you happy, is one of the biggest things you can ask yourself. Are you happy? What is your purpose? Is it the dollar? Is it chasing money? Because chasing money is not going to get you anywhere. You have to become the person that brings that money in. You have to be fulfilled with yourself and become a high value person. When you chase the money and you go from 100,000 to 200,000, it doesn't change anything. You're just someone with more money that's unhappy. And the whole joke, the money can't, they say money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a boat. It's laughable. It's funny because, money can provide things for your family. It can provide experiences, and money is necessary for those. But if you're not happy without money, you will not be happy with money. So what are you doing? What's your purpose? If you have a purpose greater than making money and you take care of yourself, it doesn't matter what you do, you'll be successful. And that's the most important thing you can do in a job like these, like in the trades, in construction. The best thing you can do is get right with yourself. So I would say, and here's my few tips for getting right with yourself and finding your purpose and being happy. And I'll tell you a little story. When I graduated high school and I started working for my dad full time, doing concrete, I did not know what I was doing. I was planning on going to school, but I did not enroll for the fall semester. So I was waiting till spring. And at this point, all of my friends were leaving to go serve LDS missions, and I wasn't. And that just added fuel to the fire of, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This job sucks. I'm not happy. I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody's angry all the time. I'm angry all the time. And the weather sucks, and we're dealing with crappy conditions, and it's physically and mentally stressful and hard. And I got to a point where I broke down and I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why. Like, what is my purpose? And it was hard. It was hard I was in a pretty, dark place for probably 6 months. And I say 6 months because it really was summer through the winter until I started spring semester of school, where I started to do something outside of work, started to work on myself, started to get right with myself. And around the time I started going to school, I also started working out. And this is why I preach working out so much. When I started working out, I started to feel better. And I was going to school and I was so busy and I was doing all this stuff. So working full time, school full time, working out is hardly something you would want to do in that scenario. But I had a purpose. It made me feel good. It helped me out mentally and physically. And at this point in time, I was kind of losing weight. I had lost probably 10 pounds or 15 pounds since I had graduated. And I was already pretty skinny. And at that point, I was like, okay, I need to do something. Something needs to change here. And from that point on, when I started working out, it was like everything possibly could come against me did. Every time I talk to somebody, they'd say, "Oh man, you're going to hurt yourself. That's not good for you. What you do concrete and you're working out. I mean, man, it's bad. Get ready for back problems, shoulder problems, whatever." And everybody would have some sort of problem with what I'm doing, getting right with myself. People don't like that. People don't like change. They don't like to see other people take care of themselves because they're not taking care of themselves. They are not taking care of themselves. They see somebody that's out here doing more than them. And not only is there kind of a jealousy there, there's kind of a resentment. And, then all of the excuses come out. Anytime you hear someone talking like that, you hear their own excuses for why they don't do what they do. So this brings me back to my get right with yourself. Anytime that I've noticed that I'm unhappy and don't feel like I have a purpose, all I'm doing is working. All I'm doing is working. And you go home and then you sit there. What now? Get sucked into video games, watch TV. I mean, that's what the whole world is doing. But it doesn't make you happy. Going to work and then going home and playing video games and drinking beer all night is not going to do it for you. And especially if you're in a high stress job, occupation, if you do not have something to look forward to when you get home, not playing video games, and it can be that can be something that you look forward to that gives you purpose. But if you do not have something to look forward to when you come home, it's really hard to be happy with yourself. So I would say some of the most important things, bringing back to some of my tips for, finding your purpose and being happy. Getting right with yourself, taking care of yourself, number one. And that means, going to school. If that's what it means, I say don't go to school, because if you don't know what you want to do at school, it's a waste of time. And it really doesn't help you in your job. But if you want to go to school to learn something, if you want to do it, go to school, learn something, start working out. Okay. Just get rid of this bull crap around where I work in construction. I don't need to work out. You need to take care of yourself and train your body just as much as anybody else. And working in construction isn't even a workout. We use our bodies, sure. After about the first year, nothing gets harder for you. Your body gets used to it, and there's no progressive overload of work that you can look at and see significant changes and gains in. So progressive overload is how you train, not how you work. So that's one thing I would say. And it doesn't have to be a ton. I've worked out 3 times a week for 6 years. And in fact, I don't even do that now. I work out 3 times a week, lift weights 3 times a week. The other days I do workouts, but they're more body weight, and all of my workouts are 45 minutes, unless I'm scrolling on my phone, which I don't want to do. They end up taking longer that way. So tip number 1, get right with yourself. Work on yourself, work out. And I would also add to that, read and meditate. Reading is something I've done off and on over the years. Meditating is not something I've done, but something I'm going to start doing. And I would say number 2 is get your relationships in order. If you don't have something to look forward to when you come home, if your relationship isn't what it should be, and in fact, you don't want to go home because you're just going to come home to contempt and anger and miscommunication, it is extremely hard to be happy in that scenario. And then why are we even working? You don't have the proper home environment. Why do you even do what you do? A lot of men fall into work and chasing money because they want to provide for their family, and they think that that's how, like, men want to show their love and their support through providing. It is a fundamental aspect of being a man. And to the women out there, that's what a lot of men want to do. But if you're not showing up for your family, well, what are we doing? Why are you working? What is your purpose? That plays into your purpose more than you think. A lot of people have their purpose of going to work as providing for family, which is a good purpose. Providing experiences for family, making sure that kids are taken care of. But if you don't also put that work into that relationship when you come home from work, what are we doing? All you're going to end up with at the end of your life is kids that were taken care of, but didn't have a parent, a father or mother at home with them as they grow up. That's all that you're going to end up with. So take care of yourself and relationships. Make sure your relationships are where they should be. Third thing I would say, find a reason to enjoy what you do. I've talked about this before, where you can enjoy what you do. You can enjoy anything you do. You can come to love anything you do. I think dream jobs, honestly, are a bunch of crap. Nobody comes out of the womb with a dream job. Nobody comes out of the womb saying, I'm going to be a doctor. That does not happen. You cannot tell me that dream jobs are real. We make dream jobs. People make a dream job in their brain, in their mind, based on their values, based on things that they want, based on their experiences, based on what people tell them. People make dream jobs based on what people tell them they should do. And the problem there is, may not actually be your dream job. You can come to love anything you do. You can love you can clean porta potties and love what you do. If it is paying you well and you have money to provide for your family and you're home at a decent time and you can spend time with your family, and that's your purpose, you can love cleaning porta potties. You can love anything you do. And I think this dream job scenario we've created in the US is fine and dandy, but it should be more about finding out what your purpose is and finding something that aligns with that. And even at that, you can be working somewhere and have your purpose align with what you do. And that's going to be the most important thing that you can do. Now, I'm not the best at all of this. I don't have it all figured out. And even though I say, are you happy? Like there's been times where, the times that I have been the happiest, the most content, the most fulfilled have actually been when I've been the busiest. When I've been super busy at work, working full time, going to school full time, anytime I've been in between semesters of school leading up to now, it's just been unfulfilling, unhappy. And if I didn't have something to fill my time with, you just fall into a sad depression. And I've never been one to necessarily struggle with depression, but I do get in times where if I'm not working towards something, whether that's with this podcast or with my business, with my wife, or towards some goal I have at work or going to school like I was going to, then it's really hard to be happy. So if you have a purpose, you have that purpose, it really makes a difference. And that purpose is a lot easier found when you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your relationships. And you can't take care of your relationships without taking care of yourself, which is why I put that first. I would say, adding on to here, I feel like I'm all over the place, guys. So I apologize about this because I didn't have this very well planned. If you aren't taking care of yourself first, you can't take care of other people. And that includes what I was going to add is doing things that you enjoy, doing hobbies, or taking time to yourself. If you want to go start working out, then you should. If you want to start fly fishing, go fly fish. Go start that and chase that and have something to look forward to. Take time for yourself. Taking time for yourself is not selfish because you can't take care of other people if you are not 100%. And it's really hard to be 100% if you're not happy and fulfilled and you're not 100% mentally or physically there. If you're unhealthy, overweight, not mentally strong, like these are all things that need to be taken care of. And they're the most important. They're the foundation. Your relationships come next. Your work is last. Okay, work is important, but it's not everything. And if you have all of that stuff in line, the money comes. It does. And more I talk to people, more and more I see that as soon as they started taking care of themselves, being grateful for what they have, building their relationships, the money came. Because the money comes. The money comes to those who deserve it when you become the person that deserves it. So thank you guys for listening to this episode. I hope I wasn't too all over the place with my ideas and thoughts. I could have gotten sidetracked. I probably wouldn't know at this point, but that's what it's everything that's been on my mind. This is all that's been on my mind for the last couple months. And it's really important. And I imagine that topics are going to go away from specific trades to mindset, purpose, relationships, because it's what I'm working on. It's what I'm working on. Okay, the business side, production, it's easy. Relationships are hard. Self-care is hard. It's hard to do. But once everything is in place, once your physical and mental health are there, and your relationships are good, and you're happy, everything else falls into line. Promise you it does. And guys, I have a ton of awesome guests lined up. Like I am super excited for what is coming with this podcast. I have a ton of guests. I keep getting scheduling messed up, and my schedule doesn't line up or their schedule doesn't line up. But I have a bunch of awesome guests, and in order to get more awesome guests on and to keep pushing this podcast, that's what I created the community for, to help support this, because it does take money and time. So if you guys watch the podcast, listen to it, and you like it, subscribe and share, leave a rating, but also join the community. It is going to be awesome, and you guys will enjoy it if you enjoy the podcast. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.